Welcome back to Made Up of Wires, where we are decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night. If you're not familiar with the Castlevania Symphony of the Night decompilation project, you can go to soten.z.dev to learn more and see the progress on the overlays that we've been working on. What to overlay? Anything that can change in the game, or the game itself. Things that are loaded from disk, usually they correspond to files. In fact, almost always they correspond with files. So DRA is the game engine, something that's been done for quite some time. We've been working on Castle Keep, which is known as Top. And even though the graph says we're 100% of the way done with code, we're not quite there. We have finished one yesterday, 2 more to go, and we're going to keep working on that. One of the things that I thought might be interesting to do as well, and if we finish off the function that we're working on pretty quickly, maybe we'll get to it. I was looking at soten.dev, and when I looked at this the first time, one of the things that struck me was we know what all these things are. So soten.dev was written by somebody that I don't know. Every once in a while Nate shows up in chat. I believe Motzella knew the author as well. But it was somebody who was involved, I believe, with the randomizer and speedrunning community. Put up a lot of really great resources about different offsets in the game, structs that are in the game, lots of things that we now know through empirical evidence and decompilation. I had a big thing about controlling Doppelganger 10 and 40, and it was already here on soten.dev long before I discovered the code for it. But now we know why a lot of this works, and to what degree did the author, how much did they know? We don't know, because all we have is what's in this document, but I thought it might be interesting to look at what some of these things do, how we might do them in code, and maybe even put some switches, compilation switches in to enable some of these. This particular Game Shark code, which I think are funny, it's rewriting some instructions to not take a branch that would normally be taken, and so we can look at what it changes those instructions to. But there's a lot of different things in here that change data, change instructions, and things like that that are pretty cool to look at. So maybe we'll do that if we finish this function. So what function are we working on? I think it's the triangle elevator. This one here, we're at about 92%. We did play a little bit yesterday to check that out. Let me go back over here and check. I will talk a little bit about something else that I've been working on while we're in the terminal as well. This is going to be in source st top. I haven't been going through this, using the triangle elevators. I haven't been going through this as quickly as I could, but even so, just one person now. We've been able to do a stage in about a month for a while. But usually it's a group effort. Basically, as one person, I've been able to do a stage in about a month. And Castle Keep is a small stage, so it's not terribly impressive. But I think it does show how much more mature our process is, and how we're getting there. So we'll keep working on that. I do want to take a brief aside. So I mentioned yesterday that I was working on cleaning up some of the Doppelganger stuff where I found places that memory was being accessed, maybe directly when it should have been accessed through a struct. And that got me down the path of trying to fix some of the tooling that doesn't quite work for Doppelganger. Doppelganger is 10 and 40 are the second and third bosses, real bosses. There's a Maria cutscene. Oh, actually, is Bomar the... No, that's not the boss Maria, because the boss Maria doesn't exist in that form in the PS1 version. So there are some things that are different in the Doppelganger overlay that differ from other stages, and even the Medusa boss that's also been decompiled that we've seen before. And one of those is how sprite banks are organized, and it's actually a completely different data type. And our current asset tool that can parse what those sprite banks look like. A sprite bank is a list of sprites. Our current tool doesn't support the different type, which is we call an alu frame, that might show up there. And so I was looking at how do we do this, but how do we know that it's different, and how, like, maybe it's just different data and treated different. So I was looking into that as well, and we get some interesting code here. I'm going to look at the render entities function. This is the code that takes all the data, looks at all the things, and then is going to render, draw one of the entities on the screen. And so I was looking through here, how does this work? One of the things that I noticed, when you give it a sprite sheet, it's going to look at the first 16 bits of that sprite sheet. We're calling that animation frame here, and check the high bit. And if that high bit is set, it's going to treat it as an alu frame as opposed to a we call it sprite part. And sprite part, coincidentally, comes from I don't know if it originally came from this, but that is what Soten Dev calls it. The names are a little bit different, but it is what it is. I would probably, we don't have for declarations like this in C properly, so I'd probably change this a little bit. We can actually make this a 0 length array, and that gives us basically a dynamic array. We can put as much as we want in that bottom part. I might go back at some point and refactor and see if I can get that in our code as well. So we know, though, that this is the structure that most sprites use, but not all sprites. And so if it's Alucard, it actually uses a completely different structure of a completely different size altogether. Pretty neat. So while doing that, I was able to also pull out a bunch of the sprites for Doppelganger, and this is the first, another first. Doppelganger is breaking all the things. The Doppelganger overlay doesn't contain a single sprite bank. It actually contains multiple sprite banks, and that may or may not be a problem. We're going to see. Currently, the asset tool names the sprite bank a fixed name. It calls it sprites, and that may or may not be an issue. I haven't figured out yet if that is going to be an issue or not. It might not be, because now that I'm thinking about it, it is just the one in the header. But we do now have... oh, I can't make that any bigger. We have all the sprites for Doppelganger pulled out. I don't have the palette. I haven't found the offset for the palette yet. So they're just grayscale. But we have two different ones. We have that, and we have the bat form, which has all of the different bat sprites, which are mostly the same as the Alucard sprites. They just exist for Doppelganger. So this is for Doppelganger 10. I haven't done Doppelganger 40 yet, but we'll get there eventually. So anyway, let's get back to the triangle elevator. I call it the triangle elevator because it has triangles on it. Let's see if I can load this. So when we look at some of the entities, we can actually get a name from the game, even if there's not necessarily on-screen text for it. I'm gonna grab Duck Station here. So we're going up and down the triangle elevators. Each of them has 3 triangles. They're rendered by the same function. If we look at, actually, let's go over here. If we look at what their entity ID is, an E in it. I don't have this named yet. So it's the one after Breakable Wall. And do we have... these aren't in order. Let's see, we're doing Flea Rider. So we're... One, two, three, 4, 5, 6 before Flea Rider. 5 before Flea Rider. So that gives us entity ID 26. Yeah, it's not in here yet. But we can look at... where is my Flea Rider? I thought there was a list here. We'll look here. Actually, we'd have to go back through and look at the init ID, and there's not going to be anything here. That's worth looking at. So we have a unique ID in this initialization data, and that would tell us if we went over here and looked for 30. Get there. Actually, let's go down to Flea Rider. This will be at the hex 30th offset, which is 48. So we can expect this one to be 48 down in this array. And unfortunately, what we're building here is at index 5. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have no name here. So we have no name for this. It's just a generic entity. So not much fun. Can't come up with anything good for it. So I'm calling it Triangle Elevator. If you have a better name, comment. And then hit the subscribe button. And smash that like button. But we're going to get back to decompiling. The more you like, the more I decompile. So let's get back to the Triangle Elevator. We're working on a few things and primarily working in the PSP version. Like always, the PSP version gives us a bunch of hints about types and other things like that, variables, and so it aids quite a bit. We're at 85-ish% of the way there on the PSP version. We're going to try to get as close as we can, and if we can get a match on the PSP, great, but once we get to a match on the PS1, we will likely stop. So our major differences, the top of the function is pretty good. We're missing, or we're have some errors related to registers and stack position. I'm not terribly concerned with that. We'll worry about that later. The stack offsets are going to throw us off a little bit because when you have a variable that gets pushed to the stack, you need 2 instructions, potentially. You have to write it to the stack, and then you have to read it back from the stack if you're going to use it again. Whereas if it goes into a register, you can just push it to the register, and then most of the time instructions have a register as an argument. So a few things I'm not going to get too worked up over. We have a move up here, which again looks like a variable issue. Probably not too big of a deal. I'm getting flooded with spam calls lately. And so we're just going to keep going down, ignoring most of those stack and register issues. We'll come back to those when we need to figure those out. And then let's look at 133 and see where we are. And I think this is pretty much where we stopped yesterday. So there's two ways that we could go about solving this. We can look at what is happening here. We're loading a byte at offset 7C. 7C is going to be our first position in our entity extension. So that looks like it's getting loaded first. And then we're doing this whole business here. So it looks like this condition up here is being done before all of these calculations. And so it's more likely that these are done inside of this if statement. They probably got pulled out as part of the PlayStation optimization pass, I'm guessing. But for us, we can ignore that. And so now we have to go through and look at our instructions and see, do we have some ordering issues here? So the first thing I see is our offset Y is not happening in the right order. This global 72F20 is probably within GPlayer or something else, and we'll have to figure out what that is. Offset Y is not getting set yet, so what is offset Y? Right now it's all this, but is it really? There's some tile map stuff. So first I'm going to try to resolve this variable, and we can do that. Like I said, I have a feeling that this is part of GPlayer. So I'm going to look. Fortunately, all of these are documented. And so we have VRAM flag, so that looks good. And so we can replace this with GPlayer VRAM flag. And that is equivalent to this down here. So I'm going to look at the decomp. What I think is happening is we're doing this check, and then that is its own block. And in that block, then we're doing this additional check. And so we can calculate offset Y out here. And yep, that gets us much closer. Then we do our check for offset Y. So we have some sign extensions here. Let's fix that. That suggests to me that offset Y probably is a sign 16. That might break other things, but that helps us there. And so then we're going to have to indent all of this. And how does the rest of this look? Those look good. Yeah, the rest of that, this next branch looks fine. So our calculation here is off as well. It does not look like it's being loaded like this. Offset X is not being used here at all. So this looks superfluous. So let's just get rid of it. And the rest of that falls into place. We have some sign extensions here that are not ideal. So it looks like this is a plus equals, and I'm guessing that will resolve those. I started writing a increment linter to look for places where we're doing plus equals 1. But I also wanted to look for expression equals expression plus 1 or 1 plus expression. But that would also find these other areas. Unfortunately, we can't replace them all because they might compile to different things, as we see here. But that resolves that. So here we have the same thing. We don't want an explicit check against 0 because that is adding additional instructions, even though logically it's the same. That's probably not going to make a difference for the PlayStation. Here is one of the things I was mentioning earlier. We're writing to the stack, so we have an extra expression. In this case, we are loading offset 80, but it's actually being loaded twice. So this is actually just inline. And this can be simplified. I don't know if it is, but let's try it. It should be able to be simplified like that. Get rid of the extra parens. And that looks fine. All right, so now moving along, get player collision width. Temp S1, I think the type is wrong. We have unsigned 8. I think that should be yes. Let's just make it an unsigned 32 and see how that fixes things quite well. Again, I don't think we're loading this multiple times. So first, let's take this expression and replace that. And then I think we're just going right to the field every time. This one we can't combine, but we can get rid of this now. And so let's look at what we're left with. Well, we're already about 10% closer, which is nice. Okay, so here we're assigning this to offset y and then doing a plus equals down below. I don't think that it's going into a variable. I think that this is just happening in line both places. And I think that will tighten things up. But what are we missing? I think did I add a paren? No. What is, oh, extra equals. Okay, not quite right. So we do have a sign extension. Let's try, and this is why you can't always do this. It's possible that it is loading it twice. There seems to be a -1 in here that was missing, but that's happening way down below. So those aren't right either. I'm going to revert this. Oh, I think this is what it is. All right, so here we have an and 15 and a -1. Let's put those in parens and see if the compiler will help us. And it does. And down here, I'm suspicious about the shift left and shift right. It looks like there's just a -1. And those are looking much better. So I was wrong. It is the plus equals down. Here as a separate variable. 1 second. All right. So let's keep on keeping on. Temp S1 was a variable that I blew away, and so I'm going to go to M2C and see if I can figure out what that is, where it came from. It looks like it's... Oh no, temp S1 is there, that's fine. We're at 96%, which is good too. Not quite there though. Alright, so we have this var A1, which did get deleted, and we get an error here. There's no var A1 here. So that is var S1. That is the same as offset Y. And I'm sure that's going to help quite a bit. We have a sign extension, though, happening here.
Dad, why don't you stream?
1 second. All right, so let's see what else is going on. All right, continuing on. 166, our decrement looks fine. Temp S1, we still have that in scope. That's fine. So this is our collision. It might be nice to name it collision. Oh, something just happened, which looks like I was waiting on the compiler and wasn't patient enough. Okay, so all that looks fine. 171. This should be an XOR 4. That fixes that. And the rest of that looks good. So we're 160 changes away. What changes? Who can be sure? Only Ethan and Mark know. Yeah, I'm not sure what the 160 represents, but it's about 5 per instruction. So the first thing on 116 is that we have a register that's wrong. So let's try moving player down and see if we can convince... Actually, before we do that, we should probably clean up variables. Because we don't want to have to arrange these around things that are going to go away anyway. Most of the time in this code base, functions have very few local variables. It's much more likely that there'll be global variable references, but all of the local variables are usually very limited. Flags is used. And temp S1 I'm going to call collision. We usually use collision for a No, that's collider. So yeah, collision's fine. All right, so now we have just a few things here. So moving player below collision, that gave us the right register. 94, we have a greater than or equals to, which is forcing us to use the V0 register. If we change that to a greater than 97, that will give us the same instruction, but it'll use the @ register instead. Then we'll wait for that to complete and verify that I got the right thing. Greater than or equal to 198 or greater than 197 should be the same though. And while that's waiting, I don't know why, so this has to use the MetroWorks compiler. These are compiled in little containers that the decomp.me team is gracious enough to let us all use. And for whatever reason, for the last 2 days, that MetroWorks one has been going slow. So let's look at our PlayStation version. We have, a slight variation here on line 33. So we break this up into 2 instructions that change our register. No. The T9 register is actually somewhat interesting, not something that I see very often. Let's move this up one. The ordering should come largely from the PSP. If we have it correct on the PSP, that should be correct. Unfortunately, we're still, I'm going to sign in. This in a new window. Make sure that I don't know if they give less resources to a non or not, but let's see. So here we have registers, correct? 57. Oh, this might be related. Maybe, maybe not. We have a minus here. It looks like it should be a plus. $72. We'll fix these things because I know that they're wrong. Maybe that will fix the registers above. Maybe not. Move entity, don't worry about that. So we have register issue on 127. So flags is S6. So we'll try moving that around, and that worked there as well. So I think we have a match on PSP. So this, when somebody comes through later and is working on the PSP version of this, they shouldn't have to change a thing. Sweet. That doesn't mean, though, that we're going to match on the PlayStation. It should, but it doesn't always. Oh, but it did. So yeah, I think it was just... I had some of these wrong because they were different between the top and bottom here. There was likely some just register allocation that was different. So who knows what the optimizer does and how it works. Mysterious are the ways. But we're done with Triangle Elevator. I think I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to, we'll import this, get it compiling, make sure that we're compiling. We are. We're not doing bosses anymore, are we? So we'll make sure this works. We have something wrong. And something relatively large. So let's save again. Let's see if we have any warnings or errors. Okay, so we have a global that's undefined. Hopefully that's all it is. And we have that in the context. So I'll grab that. I don't know why it's in the context, but that's where it was. Still failing. Excuse me. Okay, so not a huge error. We just have some offsets that are wrong. So we have the C4 versus C6 issue. And I actually caught this when I was working on this the first time. So let's go look at what's happening and what we need to do about it. And the problem is this -1 that shows up. So we want this symbol here, C6, but not really. We actually want C8. Actually, C6 is fine. We'll just remove the negative. Oh, no, we need the -1 for the PSP. So we do need to create a new symbol at C8. I don't know if I've done that yet, so let's open up the symbol table. No, we don't have anything yet. So this is kind of an odd thing. So it's not going to bite us yet, but it will be an issue when we start importing data. So we're going to make this, and not necessarily for not necessarily for the PlayStation, but possibly for portable builds. So I think we're assuming that the top elevator unknown 80 field is going to be a integer greater than 1, because otherwise we're looking at the previous address, which would be out of bounds potentially. There may be other things going on here that that I need to look at, but all right, I screwed something up somewhere. I might have. Yeah, I did this already. Okay. So we'll build, and I think this will work. Yeah, that did work. So we have that one done. I do want to add a comment. But I can't really. Unfortunately, some of the tooling cares about comment syntax and format. I'll add it to the code. All right, so we have that one done. And that just leaves cutscene. And I think this is mostly going to be... So cutscene's a giant state machine. As the text is read, goes through all the transitions. Basically, instead of having a nice script or some data structure that you could replay, it's all in code. We want to ignore PSP ones, those I was just importing. So our last one is this top entity cutscene. And I believe that I have this. Well, let's throw a party first, though. We're going to override that match. We're going to go to reactions. Throw the party. There we go. So let's look at top entity cutscene. I don't remember if I have a another version of this. But this is the last one. Let's find the PSP version. I'll see if I have that imported already. But same deal. It'll be easier to walk through the PSP version, and if we can get a match there, great. Then we have 2 versions done. It would be nice to mark things as PSP clean before we have a PSP version, but I'm not going to worry about that too much right now. So we want to find, I think there will already be a function name this. Now, what was this called? Yeah, so there is one. I do want to figure out, though, what its name was before. So we're looking at PSP EU. The other thing that I was interested in doing, I don't know if I will get around to it, though, is if you own a version of the Requiem collection, or if you own a mobile version of the game, you have all of the files basically that we're working on for the PSP EU version of the game. You own a legitimate copy. So I want to find a function basically that has this name in it. Actually, that's enough information. We'll see if I started one with that. PSP. Nope. Okay. So I'll have to create a new one. And so if you have that version of the game, it would be nice if you could extract data from that instead of having to have a PSP game image, which is problematic to extract. Is problematic to extract the mobile version of the game, depending on your platform. Yeah, it can be, but maybe more attainable and significantly cheaper for sure to have a mobile copy of the game. And so can we build off of that instead? I think that would be an interesting idea. I'm going to grab this PSP version. What is going on here? Why? PB copy is my script for copying, but it seems to not be copying for reasons I don't understand. When we pass a path, PB copy should copy. Let's do this. Let's do set X. Oh, I have 2 SSH sessions running. Try this. PB copy without arguments will copy standard in. Yeah, that's failing. Okay, so the problem is I need to terminate my other section, which is grabbing that port. And so let me try to recreate that port. There we go. All right, so I'm going to create a new scratch. This one's going to be a PSP scratch. I do want to check if I have a jump table. I do. The jump tables are not automatically brought in on the PSP for reasons I have not looked into. So we're going to find that in data. Odd that it would show up in BSS, but we want it from RO data. And so we're going to grab that. And then we have to do a few things here. We can put it at the end, that's fine. We could say this is going to be a section RO data and change the alignment. We shouldn't have to, it should default to section text, so I think that should be fine. I'm going to copy all this just in case. And let's go. So there was a failure. Let's delete this. That's why you copy it first. It's possible I didn't look closely enough at the error. It's possible that there's more than one jump table. So let's look for that. Yeah, there's the second jump table. Is there a third? 3 jump tables. 4 jump tables? No, just 3. All right, let's find the others. I'm guessing it's the 2 that come before this. Odd. This label for A80 is just kind of hanging out there. I don't think I've seen that before. It's like, yeah, I'm going to be a jump table 2. I'm just going to put myself right in the middle. But there's no size marker at the end. A little strange. All right, so I think I need this A30 and A100. And something must reference that. That label, it's just odd to see that in the middle of another table. All right, so we're going to go down to the bottom of this. And we're going to add all the jump tables. The important part is that we're marking this as section RO data and setting the alignment correctly. And that worked, and it is a gigantic method. This is, I think, the biggest function in this. We're going to ignore everything that M2C did. We're going to ignore all the globals, all the symbols. We need a few things in our context, but not much. So we need our cutscene.h. What I do want to do as well is, so we don't want OVL export because that has a different meaning, basically no meaning in the context of a. Do we want it? Maybe we do want it, because then we can just copy pasta later on. Did I set stage flag? Do you have an error about that? Oh, so it is set properly here. Let me check this context. If it's set properly, then we don't have to worry about it. It's BO4 here, so let's set it to top. And that should work just fine. The other thing I want to do is I do want to provide a prototype for this so that when we run M2C, we get a clean decomp. So on the at the PSP, we're only at 56%, which isn't great. This version came from a different cutscene. I can't remember which stage that I took it from. We can look at the Dupes report and see if the cutscene matches. I think it does, though. Yeah, oh, no, scale cutscene avatar. That's not the one I want. I just want the cutscene. Cutscene unknown. I really got to go through. Yeah, so we're 93% similar to the Maria cutscene, which I think is the clock tower, or sorry, clock room meeting of Maria. So it's similar, but not exactly. So that gives us 50-ish%. And so we could do a couple things. We could start over again with that Maria version, or just keep going and see where we are. And we can reference that. There's no reason to not kind of go back and forth and reference it. When we're looking at our PlayStation version of this, we're missing a no-op. Some symbols are different, no big deal there. Call to destroy entity is here on 382. That doesn't appear to be necessary. Or it is, and it's just not being optimized correctly. So let's go down to FEC and see. Yeah. So something else is not calling destroy entity like it should. Basically at the end here. So my guess is that the destroy entity up here should be at the bottom. And then that will work itself out. So it looks like primarily that last case is what is different. So maybe we didn't need the PSP version after all. So let's look at that and see what is different. So we have our time attack. Holy Glass is obviously not the right time attack. It's like this may be different. Let's look at M2C. See if we can. So we're this is the post-Richter fight. Not calling time attack controller at all. So there's no nothing like that. Our castle flag is 96. Let's go look that up. Inverted castle unlocked. The G settings, not worried about that. I think the rest of that looks fine. So let's see how that is looking now. There might be some ordering here. Let's stick with that, and we'll do the ordering on the PSP. PSP will make that easier to find. PSP is not happy in general, though. It does not like this version. I don't think, yeah, so this is just very, very different from the PlayStation version. And so it's possible that this is not a good analog at all. But let's see what M2C shows us down there. Yeah, so this is quite a bit different. So we can't use this really. But we see that cutscene has control. That is disabled first. And then there's a bunch of checks for castle flags, whereas we're just setting it to true in ours. Settings. So this is interesting. The setting appears to be different, shifted over by 4 bytes from the PlayStation version. And then we're setting one more castle flag, which may be happening. It's setting castle flag E2, and E2 is not present in our table. I don't have knowledge about where castle flags came from. It's like Project Oblivion pulled those out at the beginning of the year. We'd have to look at this commit. Oh no, that's not what I wanted at all. And see where these came from originally. Kind of go backwards. So yeah, it looks like Project Oblivion did a ton of research and really cleaned up what was there, added a bunch of stuff. So unfortunately though, that is not necessarily going to be analogous. So drat. PSP version is very different. So let's look at our decomp again and see what's going on. So, oh, this is interesting. We have the 800,000 here as well. Let's set that. And that gets us more close to right. Our G settings goes into temp A7. This is set right before the destroy entity call. So I think all of that is correct. Let's see what our bottom looks like. Yeah, all that matches now. So where are we so significantly different? So we have some symbols that we need to map. Some symbols that are just plain different. And when you take things from one overlay and put them in another overlay and have these anonymous global symbols, you're gonna get that. So 277. We have some symbols to deal with. Here is an actual error or difference though on 244. And so I wasn't exactly right. There is a script format, but it is bespoken. These cutscenes are implemented. These huge functions for interpreting those are so we're missing an ad down here. Are re-implemented every single time. load upper immediate 10. Let's look at that. I think we're looking at this case 14. Let's look at CSOP set end. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. No, that's 12. Yeah, that's fine. 13 is just a continue, which is the default. I almost wonder if this, you'd have to look at the PSP version that matched. I'd probably write this differently. If not, skip cutscene and this function, then decrement and return, otherwise continue, but not mine to decide. All right, so I think we're here. This is somewhat strange. So we're doing the +4, which is this increment here. Let's try to decode this. We can look at different cutscene implementations as well and see if we can tell what might be going on here. So basically we're taking 4 bits at a time and kind of building up this this pointer, which is a rather disgusting thing to do, but that's how it's being done. And it looks like it's just being added. 244. So we're loading the value here. We're loading a byte though. And we're adding something. So we're missing an add. An add of what? Let's try adding one more. That makes a difference. It's one too many. load immediate 10. Oh, was that not this? Plus equals. So that's loading these top 4, or sorry, yeah, top 4 bits. That is what we're doing. And what if we do this? It looks like this is possibly happening inline instead of separate. Let's get rid of the cast here, because that is outside the bounds of the cast. That is strange. So let's revert that. I'm gonna get rid of the cast, and we get the same thing. Okay, so that's reasonable. 151. Hey, Mozilla. That's going good. Last function in Castle Keep, which is the cutscene function, which those are always a pain. So draw cutscene actor name. I think what's happening here is we need a function signature, and then that should get us the right instructions. Usually when there is a function signature, sometimes there legitimately are function signatures, but it seems like so far in top, if the function happened to be declared beforehand, then the function signature is there, otherwise it's not. And we have too few args. Did I grab the right one? Are there multiple? Okay, so we have, yes, there are different versions of this. And do we have one for top specifically? We'll try this shorter version. And that gives us the right mask. We have another global. Mozilla, I did mention you earlier. I was talking about Soten.dev and some of the things there. I thought it'd be interesting to go over a lot of the offsets and other things that are there listed as GameShark codes, and talk about the memory that they modify and what that means for like in the code itself. Some of those things I think we should probably make compile time switches. Long term, it'd be great if they were runtime switches. I think we're a ways away from that, though. Oh, we have some G-dialog stuff to fix up. Oh, no, actually, G-dialog is fine. That's all fine. As long as I have the right symbol for that already. I don't know that I do, but hopefully I do. Same thing with... Let's check this symbol and see if it's there already. So for the globals that we have names for, we'll keep the names. So up here on 53, we have some issues. So let's find those and see what might be going on. So we have a check of playable character. So my guess is, oh, and we have a castle flag, that's wrong. So let's go grab our castle flag, inverted castle flag unlocked. Yeah, and I have in the past looked at some of the instructions that are chosen, and so I can't remember if it's those codes or codes that I got from another wiki somewhere. One of the cases was like what they put in as instructions in place of what the real instructions were was somewhat nonsensical. I'm going to get rid of the explicit check against 0. Because I think these are treated as Booleans typically. Let's look at M2C. We're not getting the right signature. Oh, I did this on PSP, but not here. And the PSP version of the function ends up being too different. Do you happen to know, Mozilla offhand, if this post-Richter fight cutscene, is it significantly different on the PSP versus the PlayStation? Oh, interesting. Yeah, so what... crazy. Yeah, what I noticed here are the same for the same code, and I believe this cutscene works for Maria, for example. And all the cutscene implementations are slightly different, blah, blah, blah. But we're missing a ton of code and there's quite a bit of differences. So this is significantly different on the PSP version. Look at all that. I mean, tons and tons of stuff that just doesn't exist on the PlayStation side. This one I will not be matching on the PSP for now. All right, so let's get back to where we were. It has control, cutscene flags. Is cutscene done? Skip cutscene. So we have a name for that. We're actually setting... so self flags is getting set lower. Let's look at that. I'm inclined to agree, though. Why is decomp.me not getting my function signature? Did I do something to upset you? Without the function signature, it's not picking up that this is an entity, and so we get a bunch of garbage. And so I'd have to go through and look these up. These offsets. And I could do that, and we kind of have to do it, but it's just unfortunate. I'm going to move flags down. Flags looks different. And it looks like I'm just missing unknown 2C. And so let's see what it is. Step. Oh no, that is being set. And that looks like it's being set out of order. We'll go back and try to figure that out. We have a bunch of code at the top that is extra. And it looks like this got cleaned up then. So I think, yeah, it looks like it was just this being out of order. Not quite. but it is working now. Set cutscene script. My guess is that we need a function signature for that as well. The hint here is that there's a mask on the return value, and so the compiler knows that it should be a 8-bit return value and is masking that in. So we're missing a playable character check. So if you come in as Richter, this is like immediately at the beginning, and so I'm guessing that this is a check for who you are playing as. So yeah, if I need to go through and see if this is an enum or not, playable character. But if the castle flags are set and not a playable character, then we're going to destroy the cutscene and just not do it. So let's look at that variable. I'm not familiar with it. Yeah, so it is a enum. Let's look at those values. So basically we're saying if we're not a la carte, it looks nice and clean. All right, now we have a bunch of extra stuff up here for skipping the cutscene. Some of this looks like it needs to stay, some of it needs to go. Let's go see if we can tell. So we're checking the step for 0. Checking is cutscene done, skip cutscene, time attack, etc. Doesn't look like we're checking the start button though. Maybe. No, I don't see the pad. So that's interesting. Possibly you can't skip this cutscene with the start button. So I'm gonna just do this grossly. And we'll clean it up. Let me get my parens fixed. That still is saying that pressing start skips part of it. To give myself fully glasses. arg0. That's what it's yelling at me about. And friend. Or sorry, not friend. Semicolon. So 28. It looks like, and this was the same down below. Instead of 800, we're looking at 80,000. So this is just a flag. I don't think we have enums for these. It does look like these are backwards, which is really unfortunate because we can't share any of this. Our branching is off. So it looks like, what did I miss? Oh, it's not an else. Drat, and I removed that from the other one, but we can grab that. So I think 2C was step, which we already checked, and drat, what is revert a bunch of this, so we can grab that original condition. And now we're looking really good. 99.46. So we're pretty close. Not quite there though. So we have a move, which is just out of order. So what is going on here? So, we don't have we probably need a cutscene run. Signature. Oh, I was hoping that was it. Let's try adding the cutscene skip signature as well. Basically, we want to convince the compiler that different registers are or are not going to be used. Cutscene run, let's make sure that it is a void function. It is. So not having it doesn't seem to have any effect. Okay, so we're moving the S2 variable, which for some reason self, our argument to the function, is getting put into S2, and that's what's happening there. But the way that it's working out, the no-op and the move are switched. So the no-op is in a delay slot, and so this gets executed before the jump and link instruction. In this case, we're putting the argument in the argument register before the jump and link instruction gets run. In either case that's happening, but in this case, we're wasting the no-op on the delay slot, and in this one, we're wasting the no-op just as an instruction before. What an odd difference. So, how do we convince Oh, this would be awful, but let's try it. Yeah, that was awful. So sometimes what we see is the devs have forgotten to put a parameter, but because the A0 register was never overwritten by anything else, it just works. Those are bugs that show up from time to time. That doesn't appear to be what's happening here. So something else is causing this these instructions to be reordered. Let's try this. Let's try negating both of these. Sometimes changing the logic around a function is enough to make the optimizer change its ways. And so, did it? It did move the no op, but it's relying on the S2 register. So that may be something. Let's look at the decomp again and see how these are grouped. You check, explicitly check against 0. Sometimes with GCC, it throws that constant into a register even though it doesn't need to be there. And it can use the 0 register. But it does it and then nothing else comes through and cleans that up. I'm going to reorder these again in the hopes that... unfortunately, there's a side effect here that reordering these would cause. Because these are global, GCC can't be sure that reading them doesn't have other effects. And because the OR short circuits, it can't assume that it can read G settings first. It has to read is time attack unlocked first. And so if we switch those, the inverse would be true. It has to be able to read the other. Okay, so this unfortunately I don't have a good workflow for the permuter anymore. We changed a bunch of the build infrastructure, and so the permuter doesn't work the way that I used to use it, which is a bummer. But this does seem like something that would be reasonable for the permuter. And I'm just going through and making sure that I have these. What happened here? I added the symbol and now it's missing. And then I do want to make sure that I have G dialog. I do. If I'd re-export this, these would all appear, or should appear as G dialog plus an offset. And I'm just making sure that the other symbols are things that I expect them to be. So yeah, that's a bummer. That's one relatively small. So it may be related to a function signature. It may be. Who knows? Did I fix these? Doesn't look like it. It could be a data type. Or as people in other parts of the country say, data type. All right, let's... that's a frustrating spot to be stuck at. So what should happen, ideally, is that I have enough context that I can pull this in. It's not going to match. It's going to fail. But we should see exactly this line here. There should be 2 instruction differences. And everything else should match. The size is the same, which is nice because we won't get a bunch of noise in the diff. But I think this, if everything else is fine, oh, we have a bunch of RO data. That may or may not be related. Oh no, these are all the jump tables. Yeah, because we have a ton of jump tables. Okay, so let's put this in. We're gonna get rid of, just make sure that this RO data is the jump tables that I'm expecting. It's not. These are strings. But there are no strings that are being referenced here. Okay, so this RO data is being pulled in. It looks possibly like they're SOTN strings, so they end in an FF as the end marker. This first one does, at least. Oh, these probably are the actor names. So let's figure out where those are coming from. Yeah, so we've Alucard, Richter, and Maria. Okay, and so let's look at... Well, first we need to figure out where those are being used. We have other functions in 296F4 that are using them, which may mean that those functions should be here in this file. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to switch here. Why? Did I grep it poorly? I did. So it looks like these strings are here in RO data, but they're never used. Could that be? So we don't have to worry. Mainly I'm worried about alignment. Am I going to throw this function in and just be out of alignment? That would suck. I don't see any functions referencing them. Because of the way that these are declared and the way GCC works, they don't get pruned, so they end up there. So let's look to see if we have an a la carte string. Yeah. So this shows up as actor names. Oh, and we probably have a offset to actor names. Is that right? Do we have actor names in here? We don't. I just don't want to obliterate this. Let's do this. Let's look. Do we have not splat symbols? stpop. We do. It's at DE4. Hey, Taiwan. We're trying to get a matching decompilation for Symphony of the Night, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. So right now, just finished all but 2 instructions on entity cutscene for the Castle Keep cutscene, and we'll build it and see how this goes. So that's one. Oh, I went through a whole thing with skip cutscene, trying to see if I could change its type. The decomp. So we have an undefined reference to cutscene data, which I will need to find. So different people want different things out of it. So one of the things, if you're familiar with Dragon Blitz, he's highlighted bringing the PSP Maria character into the PlayStation version of the game. So playing on regular hardware, like actual PlayStation hardware, you can play as Maria for the first time. Not a Game Shark code, as some people would suggest. Which is kind of funny. Let's find this cutscene data. 45 here. Yeah, that's. There's actually some talk in Discord today about Saturn Maria. When do we get Saturn Maria? The Saturn version is in its infancy. There's a couple, and I wanted to spend some time on the Saturn version. So I'm just a contributor to the project. I'm not anybody terribly important. I know of really only one other person, though. One person, I should say. Maybe 2 who have been doing anything related to the Saturn on the project. I don't know the instruction set, the Super H chip. I'm not familiar with it. It looks pretty bonkers, and loading data is always 8 bits at a time, and just a very different instruction set from MIPS, which I'm very familiar with. So randomizer definitely is something we hope to help with as much as possible. There's things that once we have the code, so the Maria thing, for example, that would not have been possible without having the code. So any detailing of the game that we can do is always going to be beneficial. There's several months ago, I think it was around December or so, I looked at some of the randomizer features and making them compile flags instead of like changing offsets on disk. And that's an interesting concept. So making the randomizer a compiler instead of changing disk images or building diffs for disk images. There's some pluses and minuses, some trade-offs. You can go in pretty deep and not have to worry about offsets and keeping things the same size. You can make much more substantial deep changes. On the other hand, it's going to take 30 seconds or more to generate new images, and those diffs are going to be completely different from the original game. You're not going to be able to ship patches because the patch basically would be the entire disk at that point. So yeah, things like that. So I missed the cutscene data symbol, so I'm adding that. We'll see if that gets us. So I'm not expecting this to match, but I am expecting only 2 instructions to be different. So let's see if that is the case, and it looks like it. So here we have the no-op when we should have that move of the 2 registers, switching the 2 registers, and then where we want a no-op, we have the move. So it is unfortunately just that difference that we see in decomp.me. On the one hand, I'm happy that everything has worked out, and that is like we're seeing in Decomp.me exactly the difference that we're seeing with the compiler. That's not always the case, because the context can be so different, but we need to figure out why this is. So here's the first thing that I'm thinking. Let's look here on line 34. So we have a check against step. We can't be sure, I suppose, that step hasn't changed. Let's pull this out. But that changes the logic just a little bit. It actually doesn't compile to anything different, which is interesting. I'm trying to wrap my head around why that would be. It optimizes to the same thing. Our branches are going to the right place. It's nothing to do with branching. We just need to do something. So cutscene skip, we do have that. Let's try this. Let's try. I can get rid of a few of these because they should be declared static ahead of time. This wouldn't make a difference though. I was going to say, pulling in the correct function signature, it would be there here. So if it was a function signature issue, that would just work out. What else can we do? We could cast this as an int. So a function pointer that takes an int, that's the wrong way to do that. I always screw that up. Let me look in weapon for... in some cases we have to do that. We have to take places where we have function signatures and actually erase them because compiler needs to use the default signature. Let's see, what do I want? I never remember the function syntax, function pointer syntax, and even less than that, the signature to cast to an anonymous function signature. Oh, where are we? Let's just look for cast. I know we have cases in weapon where we need the default signature. Let's look in particles. So if you're not familiar with C, the default signature for any function that's undeclared until recently basically was int. An arbitrary number of ints, actually int with an undefined set of parameters. Occasionally changing that. So this should give us an error. If you want 0 arguments, you have to specify void in the argument list. I saw that, yeah, I saw that you did that, Mozilla. That's awesome that you were able to do that so quickly. I feel like there is a huge SOTN explosion, and maybe it's just because I'm paying attention to it more. Ugh. So I think what I'm going to do is probably take this offline and try to get the permuter going. Let's see if I can do that quickly. We do have a permuter script, right? Drat. I'm gonna have to go back through and read it. This is not executable. Well, let's see if this works. That's better than nothing. So something else is going on, unfortunately. Oh, I'm wrong order. Let's try again. No subsegments with cutscene. Did I just say cutscene then? Well, okay, but I don't want post-Richter cutscene, I just want cutscene. Subsegments. There's no way to get out of it. Let's do this. works. Oh, no, I have to do Python, which is never fun. So basically, this is saying find a segment that's a C segment that ends with source. When I just say cutscene, I have post-Richter cutscene as well as cutscene, so both of those are matching. So I don't want ends with, I just want equals, I guess. There we go. So I've imported. And now I can permute. Ah, there we go. Okay, so now the permuter is going. What the permuter is going to do is basically make small changes to the file and try to get it to match. And so its score right now is 520 versus our score here of 560. That's because I have some symbols that are matching in mine that when I uploaded this weren't matching, specifically the, well, it doesn't really matter. So it's going to run, and it's going to run basically as long as I want it to, or until it finds something. It's such an odd thing, though. Let me try one more thing. Yeah, effectively it's brute force. I can limit where it's going to change things. When there's a complex condition like this, it's not actually the best. So let's change this to a not and. No, it really didn't like that. Sometimes, and it didn't affect our cutscene. Something odd is going on there. I'm really not sure what. But that'll have to wait till next time. And if I figure it out tonight, I will come back tomorrow and share. And we can all learn something. Maybe. But yeah, I'm going to leave that going. I didn't have time going longer than I wanted to anyway. Since this looks like the end of top, I might post this on Discord and see if anybody else has an idea. I do think that maybe tomorrow we'll go over some of the Soten dev stuff and look at some of the debug stuff that's here and show you how that relates to the code that we've decompiled and why these GameShark codes work and what you're actually doing when you put in a GameShark code. And maybe I can cut that up and make a nice short video of it too. So that's all we got for today. Go to soten.z.dev and get progress. We've been working on top. We're literally 2 instructions away from having that completely decompiled. And then on to something new. I think I'm going to reach out to Discord and see if people need help on something or want to focus on some area. I might go through, we have some issues in the GitHub repo. Go to the top there. You can get to GitHub. find all the code that's been decompiled so far. If you're interested in contributing, go to issues, and some of them are marked good first issue. Like adding HD overlays. There's been requests for the JP version of the game. If you add any of the stage overlays from HD, those are the same as the JP 1.0 versions of those, so you get some JP goodness as well. But that's all I got. See you tomorrow, and hopefully I figure out what is flipping those instructions. Adios.